What if I told you that I knew somebody who was banned on TikTok over 28 times, who was taken off of YouTube completely, Instagram more times than she can count, and she has one message only, and that's protecting the kids from human trafficking? Tonight on Night Shift Top Secret Information, political commentator, comedian, conservative aunt, and myself, former special operations veteran and cop, are tasked with going down the rabbit hole tonight. It's all about Sonya, the 2A Patriot Mama, right here on Night Shift TSI. Welcome, everyone, to the show.
Wow.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here with us today. I have had some technical difficulties, so I apologize today, Sonya.
That's okay. Totally okay.
Sonya and I have been really good friends for a while, and I just admire everything that she's been doing and continues to do to protect the children and save people's lives in the underground trafficking world. I know Tansey and I talked a lot about this last week on our show about underground bunkers, and the question constantly came up on trafficking. Actually, Eric, I think it tends to kind of come up on every single one of our shows because it always seems like something that kind of links back to trafficking in some kind of way.
Well, it's funny you mention that because yesterday I was blessed with an opportunity to meet with Jaco Booyens, who is probably the head of all human trafficking source of knowledges like in the world, worldwide, combating human traffickers. Sonya and I were talking about it, and I'm going to get her in contact. She knows who he is and has been trying to reach out to him, but you can find him on Blaze TV. He's been on Glenn Beck almost weekly. But I was actually, I got to have dinner with Jaco, and then I got to do a podcast with him. And I also got to do a separate podcast with Christy Wells, who is also combating child trafficking like Sonya here. And that is all. Those two episodes are on the Failure to Stop Patreon channel. So you can head over there if you want to hear those. It's Hunting Humans, Human Traffickers, Part 1 and Part 2 on our Patreon. It's like $3 a month. And that affords for the Failure to Stop, the C- Media Company, to host events where we get Anthony out and about, and we get everybody up to like the Valor bare knuckle fights and all those things. So if you want to support us and support the show, head over there. Also, ghostbed.com/ant is the promo code there. ANT, Anthony. That is ghostbed.com/ant. Sleep so good, it's scary. And after today's episode, after we get done talking to Sonya, you're going to need a ghost bed pillow, the cooling sheets, and all the things to sleep through this, because it is absolutely terrifying. The information that she's going to be delivering to us today. So please head over there. And then we also have factormeals.com/Wolfpack50. That's factormeals.com/Wolfpack50 for 50% off. Factor Meals is the leader in meal planning and meal planning technology. These are fresh, never frozen meals, hand delivered to your front door. So at any time, if you need 3 meals a week, 5 meals a week, so that you're not meal prepping, you can do calorie conscious, protein heavy, all of the things. You just go down, there's 300 menu items, you click on them, they're delivered right to your door. Again, they're not frozen. They come in a beautiful packaging with some dry ice down there. And it's awesome. Anthony, I think you've been eating a lot of Factor Meals lately. How are you enjoying those?
Oh, I absolutely love them. There's so many different options. I can't stop. I'm waiting for my next shipment here in a couple of days, actually.
Yeah, I just got mine yesterday. Shared one with my mother-in-law who's in town. So shout out to my mother-in-law. Okay, Sonya, 2A Patriot Mama. It's all about you. You were first of all, I think, Anthony, we should maybe start with how she got into all this, maybe? I mean, you know her better than I do.
Yeah, 100%.
Oof. Okay.
Where
did I get into this? It actually started about 9 years ago. I had seen a picture and I saw the words child trafficking and I didn't know what it meant. So I went and looked it up and it horrified me. And I said, this can't be. So I spent a lot of years just educating myself and doing research. And then, a lot more came out about it. When Trump came into office and all the policies that he was putting in place to battle this. And I was getting banned and censored on a lot of platforms. So during lockdown is about when, maybe right before that, is when I found TikTok. And I said, let me try, let me try. And it took off. So, but, I exploded pretty quickly, but I also came down pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, I'm on my 28th account, 29th account, and I'm still going.
So
I won't.
that you get to 100,000, and then they're like, "Not today, Patriot Mama," and they cancel you.
I will never ever see. A lot of people like. I don't look at it as numbers. I look at it as how far my message is reaching. A lot of people say that people are out there for clout. Yeah, I want my videos to be seen because I'm spreading information, education, awareness. I'm trying to teach parents how to keep your kids safe. I'm trying to show them what's going on in their own neighborhoods with articles that I'm sharing and what's being done so that they're aware. I'm doing the mainstream media's job, but they're never going to allow me to get as big as I was at one point. Not with my message, and that really
Why
has
do you
to
think
be
the message is so damning? What makes your message so damning that they have to silence you everywhere?
I'm messing with their money.
Huh.
I'm messing with their money.
You think that they're directly involved?
I don't think all of them are, but I do think that everywhere there's somebody involved. What's going on at the border, and we'll touch on that. That's a whole other animal, which we are actually acting on. But it's sad to say, but they look at children as a product. The United States has the number one consumer for children, pedophilia. We know
just
that.
said that yesterday. I didn't know that. If you said what was the number one consumer of child sex trafficking in the world, I would have said, what did you have said, Ant?
Not the United States.
I said like Thailand, which is close. They were number 2.
Yeah, I would think one of those. I don't know, Korea, Japan. I don't know, somewhere. I mean, not.
That's what
here.
I said. I stuck Asian. That's what I was like, and she was like,
"Why
nope,
is
nope,
that?
Nope.
Why did we go? Why did we go to that?"
Well, I did learn this week that human trafficking, not child trafficking, but human trafficking is big within the Asian world, but in something different than you would think. I heard that there was a lot of Asians that are brought over to the United States that are like basically forced slaves to pay back the person who sponsored them to get here. So basically they bring them to the United States and then make them work in massage parlors and give them just an unreasonable amount of debt. Like, hey, we'll bring you over to the United States, but you're going to owe us $500,000. And so they make them work at these massage parlors, these Chinese takeouts, and they get like 70 hours a week. And all that money basically goes back to paying these sponsors that brought them over here. But yes, Sonya it's crazy that the number one child sex trafficking country in the world is the United States. I did not know that.
Well, you could look at this a bunch of ways. They're saying that the consumer is here. So we are infested, absolutely infested with pedophiles in our country. To the point where, are there other children being abused and trafficked in other countries? Yeah. For example, I have the report here. This just came out. This is the 2022 report out of the Philippines. This is just the Philippines. And it's the scale of harm report. Excuse me. Done by the International Justice Mission.
She's allergic.
By the IJM. I swallowed air down the wrong pipe. So oh my gosh.
Eric does it all the time.
Oh my gosh. This report it's just called the Scale of Harm Report. It's done by the IJM, the International Justice Mission. Just for 2022 alone, out of the Philippines, estimated nearly 500,000 Filipino children were trafficked to produce new child sexual exploitation material. This is just children being sexually abused to subscribers through pay-per-view. So basically, they're in the Philippines, they have these children, they're sexually abusing them on live camera to subscribers across the world. And guess who the number one consumer subscriber is?
United States.
They're not even leaving the country now.
Right.
And I have this report. I mean, nearly 250,000 adult Filipinos traffic children to produce new child sexual exploitation material. This is just in 2022. I went back and looked at 2021. 2 million children. 2 million. That's just in the Philippines. What do you think was going on during lockdowns when nobody could leave their house? They were live streaming pay-per-view to subscribers.
Yeah. Yeah, they say that
It's a whole other level of sickness.
Yeah, I learned this week. I learned so much about human trafficking the last 2 days being with Yaku and his team. And they were saying that the days of white creepy vans that drive up and snatch kids, that's gone. Like that's, you know, if you kidnap a kid, the whole community gets behind fighting that kid. So what these traffickers do is use 100% online chats and mostly video games and YouTube videos. And they target the victims by like they'll be like, oh, I just killed you. And they were like, ha, yeah, you did. He's like, I bet you won't get me the next time. And then that person will be like, I bet I will. And they'll be like, hey man, what time do you have to go to bed? And then they'll be like, oh, I don't have a bedtime. They're like, oh, your mom and dad don't give you a bedtime? Oh yeah, well, my dad's a piece of shit. He left a long time ago. My mom doesn't really care what I do. Oh, that's really sad that your dad left. And then that's when the grooming process starts. And they say on average, they spend 9 months from that moment grooming, but they're looking for that particular child that has a mom that doesn't care and a dad that isn't there. And then they convince them to meet for coffee and then move in with them and then travel with them. And that's where the whole trafficking thing begins.
Yeah. There is so much on this. We could go on for hours, but you know, typically a groomer will target a child that comes from a broken home, that, you know, doesn't get the attention at home, whatever it is, and will give them the attention no matter how long it takes. Sometimes they have recruiters that are their age that are getting paid to groom them, to send that trust, you know, to build that trust with them. And then there's an older person by the time they get them to leave the house and, you know, come meet, come do this. And then before you know it, you know, they're being trafficked.
Now, I won't say where you're doing an operation, but you do boots on the ground stuff, I think, in a couple of days. I won't get too far into it, right? For
it's public knowledge. This is a public knowledge thing.
You guys are doing a takedown just in a couple of days somewhere in the United States.
Yep. This is a public knowledge. It is publicly posted because we do look for volunteers. This is something that happens every year. Basically what happens is our group the Shepherds, and it's made up of multiple organizations across the United States, and we team up and we go partner with law enforcement, and we help with their missing kid cases. So we have volunteers that come in that will be out on the streets asking questions with the flyers and the pictures. They'll get booklets that are made up that look like this, and cards of all these kids. And, you know, they go out into streets, they get a notebook, they go out in groups, they ask questions, they bring the intel back. I'm part of the team that's on the inside. We work a lot of the intel, trying to get leads on where we can find these kids. You know, we speak to family members, you know, whatever we can do to go in. Not all of them are trafficked cases. However, you know, a lot of them, what is a huge problem in this country, there are a lot of runaways. I mean, every single day on average, 2,300 children are reported missing every single day, just in the United States. You know, a lot of runaways, and what happened, a lot of them sometimes, yes, they make it home safe without getting trafficked or anything. But what happens is that if they stay out on the street too long, they do wind up in the hands of traffickers. They do wind up getting exploited. So our intention is to get in there quickly and try and find them before that happens. But unfortunately, we do have a lot of cases that they are already at that point. and we have to go get them, find them.
So last year when you did the Vegas boots on the ground, did you how many kids or young people were saved or helped?
Okay, so originally we get our cases like a couple of weeks prior to going there. So we had about 64 cases, but we start working the cases as far as intel and try to knock out like a lot of the ones that we can. So we did clear off 32 cases by the time we physically landed in Vegas that week. And that was during the week leading up to Super Bowl. So on those 32 cases, we wound up, I believe, finding, I think was 17 during that week.
I mean, even if you save one child, it's worth it.
And that's our motto, for the one. It was all worth it for the one. The shepherds, it's for the one.
Well, it's funny that we bring you on. Again, yesterday I spent a grand total of about 4.5 hours just podcasting with Yaku and his team on child trafficking. And while we were talking, this happened, and I didn't get a chance to talk to them about it because it was happening as we were podcasting. But now we have you, Sonya, and Anthony. I don't even know that this has broke the news completely viral yet or mainstream yet. But this was a brothel network with wealthy clientele out of Massachusetts and Virginia. So I'm going to read this really quick. This is from WBZ News. 3 people were arrested Wednesday for allegedly operating a high-end brothel network out of apartment complexes in Cambridge, Dedham, Watertown, Massachusetts, as well as Virginia. The commercial sex ring was built on secrecy, exclusivity. Yes, catering to wealthy and well-connected clientele, according to U.S. Attorney for Massachusetts, Joshua Levy. Now, check this out. This is a quote from the attorney, from Joshua Levy. This guy can rest in peace. He's probably going to trip and fall on a noose. They are doctors. They are lawyers. They are accountants. They are executives at high-tech companies, pharmaceutical companies. They are military commanding officers, government contractors, professors, scientists, Levy said. These are the brothel customers. Pick a profession, and I bet you they're represented in this case. 3 people were arrested. Now, here's what's crazy. We just talked about this. 30-year-old Jin Mi Young Lee, Han Lee, and another guy named Lee Thomas. They allegedly operated through 2 websites reporting to advertise nude Asian models for professional photography at upscale studios as a front for prostitution. Now, here's where I have a problem with it. None of this is prostitution. This is all human trafficking, because these women didn't just say, you know what? I want my body to be used and abused, and I want to sell I want to sell myself. No, they were coerced, they were bribed, they were lured in, and they were defrauded. I guarantee you, which meets all the criteria for trafficking. The 3 rented high-end apartments in Cambridge, Dedham, Watertown, and Eastern Virginia and used them as brothels, prosecutors said. The rent for some of the apartments were $3,600 a month.
So they were high-end apartments.
Yes, very high-end apartments. But I have a real problem with this, though, because all of the headlines right now were prostitution. How do we know this quickly that it is prostitution? And that's a problem that we have here in the United States is there's a moral and Christian argument to prostitution. And so our brains stick on prostitution and brothels, but oftentimes, and more times than not, we're not talking about prostitution. We're talking about trafficking, coercion, fraud. They kept saying crime begets crime. There's a lot more going on than just some girls, because this puts the pressure on the girls. Prostitution sting busted, brothels. You know what I mean? That's where they get you. And they're not pointing towards, no, these were men that were trapped. These were women that were trafficked, humans that were trafficked and being exploited by attorneys, doctors, politicians, etc.
And they had somebody over them taking a cut of the money, most of the money. So, these girls weren't out there by themselves selling themselves. They were under somebody. That is human trafficking.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, when you bring somebody in for a photo shoot or a chance at being a model, and then you say, well,
right,
you can really make it. We're going to meet with this guy, but he wants to see you're naked. And then you get undressed in front of him. And he's like, well, he's getting kind of, I think you could be good into film. They're coercion. And that is 100% trafficking. I'm willing to bet that these women didn't just say, you know what, man, it would be a great business idea, Sonya, is if we sell our bodies for sex.
Yeah.
Well,
the problem is, good.
What is it with? Okay, I know that there's sites such as OnlyFans where people are willingly going on and showing themselves doing inappropriate things for people. I know that there's a verification process that these men and women go through on a site like OnlyFans, where they have to show either a passport or their driver's license to prove that they're 18, which is, Sonya and I have had this conversation before. It's a lot more than what Facebook, Instagram, TikTok asks from you when you're joining these platforms. They just kind of ask how old you are, and then they take your word for it. Why can't we, as a country, say you look up some type of inappropriate porn site, why can't you have to put your driver's license number or upload your driver's license before you can even do that?
Well, that's a great question. I have 5 kids, Anthony, and my son is now getting into motorcycles, and I continually call motorcycle racing crotch rockets. They've been called crotch rockets since I was a little kid. You go to Superbike crotch rocket races, pocket rocket races. My son typed in crotch rocket to watch crotch rocket accidents, and the images that came up, I was like, dude, what? Like, okay, I get that computers have a safe search, but like, really? You should have like a blur. Remember, I feel like when we were teenagers, if you typed in like porn, there was a big blurry site that said like enter email address, before entering. You know what I mean? Like, I don't remember that just a big giant dick in a chick's mouth would pop up.
Well, like
YouTube has it, where my kids have a YouTube account, but they have the children's level. Internet. Yeah, but I don't.
I feel like they've been, and I heard a story on this, and I'm not sure if it's true or not. So if you've heard it, let me know. To our followers or listeners, let us know as well. They were secretly putting things in kids' YouTube videos.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
I don't
right
remember
in the middle, it would switch to like porn.
Okay,
Roblox.
I don't remember exactly what it was, so I'm not crazy. I did see a video or something.
Twisted fuck does that?
Well,
this is where they lurk. They lurk on these games like Roblox and stuff.
Right.
They
I saw it on VR. Go into VR. Go into if your kids have virtual reality glasses, Google or whatever those things are. Yeah. Go into the lobby, the main lobby of these chat rooms with all these people's emojis or whatever they call it. Their avatars. And the conversations that you hear walking past, or the guys in the lobby that go up to a group of kids, well, you could tell that it's kids all hanging out. They're all laughing and stuff innocently. And then there's like a grown dude like, hey, what are you guys doing over here? And I'm like, what the here's the thing. I got banned one time because I was like, dude, get the fuck out of here. And I went against Google's guidelines for language. I'm like, this dude is talking to them about sex. And I said, dude, get the fuck out of here. And I get dinged. Isn't that wild? And that's exactly what I've noticed is the reason why Sonya's been banned 28, 29, 30 times, whatever it is, and, you know, I've been banned before too, but we have different types of platforms. Mine's more of a political comedic platform. When I did dabble into the world of protecting the children, I hadn't gotten so many death threats in my life like I did when I was trying to go after predators. So in my mind, I'm thinking, holy shit, this is beyond political lines.
I warned
They're
you.
on both sides, and they don't want you to catch them.
No.
And I was like,
It's a product. It's a product. Why do you think? First of all, like we said, the number one consumer is here, right within our walls. They're right here. It's not only the American children, because most of the times a child is abused by somebody they know, whether it's their family member, you know, a neighbor, a friend, whatever it is. Most of the time a child is abused. Now, forget about the amount of reports that, I mean, if you look at the statistics, when a child is abused at a young age, by the time they get the average age that they finally come out and report it is 52 years old and say something, because nobody ever believes them, number one, or they're forced not to say, or made to believe not to say anything. And 86% of the cases do not get reported. That's the statistics of a child being abused at a young age. Now
it becomes normal, right? It becomes when they get these kids this young, it becomes, I hate that word, new normal, but it becomes this child's norm. Like if they're born into being sexually exploited by their mother, the reason why I was where I was at, and why Jaku and that whole staff from Project Safe House and the JB Ministries and all these things that they were in town, was because they discovered a family of children that were being trafficked by the mother and the father, and they were literally using and abusing these children and trafficking these kids, their own kids. It's so sad. It's so crazy. But when they a lot of these people, these kids, by the time they're 13 or 14, they don't know anything else but being trafficked. They don't even have a word for it. They don't even know it as a crime. They're just like, well, this is just part of life. Like, this is what I'm supposed to do. Like, my dad friends come over, I go into the back room with them, they fuck me or whatever, and then that's it. That's like their normal. They don't even, it's not even, for us, it's hard to fathom and compromise. Right. Like it's hard for our brains to just wrap around.
That was even hard for me to hear you say.
Right. But for them, think about it, dude. If they've been doing that since they were 4, 5, even 3 years old, they don't know anything different. And that is crazy sad to me.
It's incredibly sad, and it breaks my heart. There's so many survivors, and I don't like to call them survivors, I like to call them warriors, because for them to get through all of that and still be here and be able to talk about it, I applaud them. They are warriors, and I've come across, the years, especially on TikTok, so many survivors that I speak to, and I've heard their stories offline, and they have entrusted me in their stories. And my gosh, my goodness, the horror, but almost all by family members, and they didn't know any better, and they didn't recognize it. And a lot, had blacked it out for so long, and, memories started coming back. And now, seeing people like myself, and there are so many people. Listen, there was only a handful of us 4 years ago on there really like yelling about this, and it warms my heart to see so many now stepping up and actually speaking about it on TikTok, especially. Because let me tell you, it's exhausting. It's exhausting getting banned, getting shut up, not able to. And that's why
it's unfair, right? And like just like
it's. They want me to.
We want fairness.
Problem is that unfortunately on TikTok with their guidelines, you have to water down what you're trying to say. I have to, mark out certain words in my articles, and I learned that the hard way. I don't want to do it, but I have no a reach like that to get out what I need to show. So I do it. Otherwise, I'm gone. And then there's no message at all. So I made a compromise and I said, do I want to really dumb it down? No, I don't. Do I want to call it what it is? Yeah, it's child rape. It's not, it's child rape. You're raping a child because there is no child that said, yeah, come into bed with me. No, no.
No.
You know, it's not child pornography. A child did not want to film a video. That is child sexual abuse material, CSAM. And there's a lot of states that are trying to make this law that it is not child pornography. Let's call it what it is. It's child sexual abuse material. So, you know, TikTok is it's hard because I have to slightly water it down, but it's the only way that I could get, and people understand now what I'm trying to get out, or I direct them to the podcast, which is why I started the podcast. I wanted to be able to say what I had to say. I wanted to give it like it is. Tell it like it is. And that's why YouTube banned us. Dark to Light 1111. We're on Rumble. So we're trying to build up the Rumble channel because even Twitch banned us. Facebook, I tried streaming my podcast through Facebook. The first night, as soon as the intro came on, they saw my face, they shut down my Facebook page. They don't want me talking. As soon as they see me, they shut me down.
Right. And by they, she's talking about like the AI, like the AI identifies her, you know, I don't want people, you know, because, you know, that was another thing that we talk about is that the weaponization of the word conspiracy theory, and they want to make you look crazy. They want to make you sound nuts. The thing is this isn't conspiracy theory. This is conspiracy fact. I just read you an article that happened yesterday of a brothel network held in secrecy where people conspired together, 3 men, 2 of them being Asians and 1 American, conspired to make a photography and modeling shoot that turns out that is a front for a prostitution business. That in its definition is a conspiracy. They conspired to commit a crime. And in this crime, several men or women, politicians, I'm going to go ahead and say it was probably 100% men, exploited these wannabe models that ended up being trafficked into prostitution. I'm going to follow this story. I have a feeling that this story is going to go away and that this attorney in Massachusetts is going to, you know, fall off his paddleboard in front of the Obama compound in the ocean.
You know, they showed some of the pictures of the ads and stuff, and those girls looked very young. What I will say is my first question that came to mind when I saw the report as soon as it came out, how many of them were children? Because I guarantee you a lot of these girls are underage, made to look older.
Yeah, it would make more sense. Well,
they're going to want to. Listen, I know that the investigation is new,
sure,
but I am staying on top of it. They did put out an email address.
I'm sure the FBI will do a great job too, by the way, in exposing everybody involved. I'm being facetious.
You know, we have a chance to stay on top of them. You know, I was actually surprised that, you know, Boston 25 did a news conference with all of this. I thought that this was just going to be in a couple articles and that's it. It was on Fox. It was on every news channel. Even CNN did a report on this. CNN.
Wow, they
now,
did
you know, a lot of people are in my comments saying, well, that's probably because it's Republicans. And I said, I don't care who it is.
Yeah, it's not. It has nothing to do with like political boundaries to me. Like I could give a fuck what political agenda they are. One, there are pervert Christians, there are pervert Catholics, there are pervert Republicans, there are pervert Democrats, there are pervert athletes, there are pervert nerds. There are perverts, there are sexual deviants. And here's the other kicker that I learned this week. And you know, because you know, I don't have a problem with porn. No, I don't have a porn problem. Like I don't go and look at porn. I don't need to look at porn. I don't go out and search porn. So porn's never just like, it's never on my radar, but I'm not like anti-porn either. I don't go out and like be like, stop looking at porn. But what I learned yesterday was that pornography and the addiction to pornography is at as high as it's ever been. And that they're saying like the statistics of people who are, addicted to pornography I can't even remember what it was. I was like 1 in like 3 dudes or something like that. And even teenagers as early as 12 and 13 years old. There was actually an article that they were referencing to, and you can go to the Patreon and listen to it, of somebody who just came out and said that like at 13, they were like full blown addicted to pornography before they started going down a darker path and into trafficking. But it started out with watching porn at an early age and then wanting to kind of act on these things. And then they end up, being drugged and trafficked and brought all the way around the world. And one of the things that Yaku told me yesterday, and this blew my mind, and he was like, you can tell which towns that he's in that have the worst problem, because anytime he's in a town trying to rescue kids, he tries to make the most out of being in that town. So he'll try to give seminars, he'll try to do speaking engagements while he's there. And so he always stops, of course, by the local churches. Hey, I'm Yaku. We're in town. We do child trafficking. We hunt humans all around the world. It would be really great if we could collaborate with you and speak to your congregation. You could start off by maybe doing a sermon on what the Bible says about pornography and things like this. And then I will get in and talk about, the human trafficking side. And he said, you would be shocked how many pastors say, and I that doesn't sit well with my congregation. And he can tell you right now, you won't see a fat pastor preach about gluttony because he's fucking fat. And when these pastors won't preach about porn, it's because they're fucking all in on it.
Mm-hmm. And look how much has been coming out about the churches since it started exploding. I want to say 2017. I mean, if you go by state and look up archdiocese sex scandal or whatever, the amount.
Yeah, but I mean, it would be like that in the Boy Scouts
coming out that they were hiding it.
Right. Oh, sure. But here's the thing, right? In a church, especially in a church, is where all politicians get their start, because there's a political system within the church. You can move up to being a deacon and then an usher and a pallbearer. You can move up to elder and all these things. So there's a political ladder that goes on in churches that politicians learn how to climb the ladder. If you can climb the ladder in church, then you can climb the ladder outside of the church and do all these leadership things. So all of the perverts and all of the pedophiles, where do you think they would go and get their start? They're going to go to the churches because that's a target-rich environment. I always say it. You don't fish in a pond with no fish. So you're going to go for the Boy Scouts. You're going to go for the youth groups. You're going to go for the churches. And then while you're there, you start learning how to politic and you start raising through the ranks of the church. And so if you can be a pedophile and raise through the ranks of the church, it's a no-brainer that you can still diddle children and rise through the politics of, city, county, state, on and on and on.
So you had mentioned the porn addiction is 1 out of 3 men or people, right?
Yeah, let me fact check myself on that, because this was on a podcast that I did yesterday.
Regardless of but yeah, you can fact check yourself, but think about it. How easy is it? Okay, I'm going to go back to when I was when we were 13. My first, say, porno was by a VHS tape that we had stolen from somebody's dad from like a stash in the basement, and it was so hard for us to acquire a Playboy magazine or a porno VHS or tape, whereas now all you have to do is go into your search bar or go onto multiple different sites and easily acquire it. So as a 13-year-old boy, the mystery that we had when we were 13 on, oh my God, we're hiding and watching a porn. Oh, put it under your mattress, hide it under your bed. And now it's like it's everywhere. It's everyone. It's like subscribe.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and when we were kids, it got old, right? Because you could acquire one porno mag, maybe, right? Like maybe if you were really good and you were really sly, you could get like a stack of porno mags. But if you had parents who gave a shit, and a lot of us did, I think a lot more of our parents were, millennials and
Gen X.
And Gen X. I think we had more the nuclear family was a little bit stronger back then. And so, for me, for instance, I remember a friend of mine gave me a porno magazine and I was like, what? And I looked at it one time, right? You don't need to look at, when you're 13, you only need to look at it once.
Yeah.
And I put it in a Ziploc bag and I threw it out in the woods. And then it was like that Edgar Allan Poe poem where I'm like laying in bed. Like, remember when he had the body underneath the house and it drove me crazy? I'm like, oh my God, somebody's gonna find that porno mag in the Ziploc. And so like I woke up the next day and I ran out to the woods and I buried it. Well, 2 years later, they were clearing that lot. And I must have been at that point 15 years old. And while they were clearing the lot, I was on my way to school seeing all the tractors. And all I could think of in school all day was, they're going to unbury that porno mag and my parents are going to find out. They're going to be murdered. You know what I'm saying? But like, we didn't have a free reign. So it's like, I almost even learned my lesson just from the guilt, but now there's no guilt. It's like guilt-free. 13-year-old kids can turn on their cell phones. And here's my message to the parents as a former law enforcement officer in a big city. Here it is, folks. Stop letting your fucking kids have phones, period. You're not until they're like 16 or 17. I would even be more careful. I was like, you can't smoke until you're 18. You shouldn't be able to have a phone until you're 18 or have free reign of a phone. You know what I mean? Internet on your phone.
Listen,
Internet. You should
something
not be
big
allowed to have
happened
internet on your phone.
Yesterday, I couldn't be happier. One of the top platforms for predators, Omegle, shut down.
Oh, I heard it got shut down.
Shut down. Because they have any Omegle. It's that like video chat platform, like you randomly like pop in, and that, I mean, the amount of predators that are in there
to get shut down. The fact that somebody would invent a platform where a kid can video himself or herself for 30 seconds and then it disappears forever. Are you, bro? Fucking 13.
Well, it doesn't disappear. Oh. Snapchat has it. It doesn't. It disappears to you.
Yeah, it disappears to you. I mean, a 13-year-old kid, in all intents and purposes, he thinks it goes away. You know.
No, I get it. And here's the thing with that too. It's funny that you mentioned Snapchat. So I have an 18-year-old nephew who met his girlfriend through Snapchat, and I couldn't wrap my mind around how he had found her. And he's like, "Oh, she requested me," and I was like, "But how did you know that it was really her?" And he's like, well, we'd been talking. And I'm like, no, I get it. But like, you went to 2 different high schools. You met on Snapchat. Like, how did that work? And obviously we've met the girl at this point. I mean, it's been a couple of years now. You know, she's been around the fam. But I just couldn't wrap my mind around, like, how did you just start a conversation? Like, how did to go back to like when we were 14, 15, like, were AOL chat rooms the same? Kinda. I mean, how many times did I probably talk to a 75-year-old?
Yeah, but you didn't send your dick pic to him.
You couldn't then.
You couldn't. But I'm telling you right now, 13-year-old me with Snapchat, I would have been sending my dick pictures to everyone. Girls,
but that's
boys,
what
anybody that wanted to see it, because back then it wasn't sexual to me. It was like, look at my fucking meat, you meat gazer. You know what I'm saying?
But it's a different mentality nowadays. Because we've been desensitized.
Exactly. We've been desensitized. And even in schools, they're teaching about anal sex and oral sex and even mentioning those words in the 5th grade. Yaki was saying that they went into a town. I don't remember what state it was. Maybe it was New York or New Jersey. And their sex ed curriculum in the 5th grade was referencing how to masturbate and proper ways to masturbate. Listen, dude, in 5th grade, I think I was masturbating in the 5th grade, but I didn't know that that's what it was. I was just like, it had nothing to do with sex. It was like, if I do this to my wiener, it feels pretty awesome. You know what I'm saying? But I wasn't picturing boobs or sex or anything. I was just like, this is rad, you know? So, but now these kids, now they know that it is sexual. And they know that they're desensitized at that point to it. And then they get the cell phone, and then all of a sudden, the porn sites come up and it's new to them. I didn't know what a blowjob was until 9th fucking grade. I didn't know what a blowjob was until a chick tried to give me one. And I was like, yo, what are you doing? And she was like, I'm going to give you a blowjob. I was like, get your mouth away from there. That's where I pee.
Right.
Well,
right.
And that's, this is all, all of this. I mean, in New York alone, you have the Dalton School. I don't know if you guys remember that. It was about 2 years ago.
Dalton School?
Dalton, Dalton. It's a private school. Okay, so that's one of the schools that it was all over the news that they were showing cartoons teaching masturbation to kindergarten and up.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And they have a history. And I did a whole series on that school because guess who actually taught in that school?
Who?
Jeffrey Epstein was a math teacher in that school.
Shut the front door.
And
What?
this school has a history of no. One of the headmaster at the time was Bill Barr's father that hired
What?
Jeffrey Epstein back in the 70s.
Yo, is that true? Is that fact checkable?
That is fact checkable.
Oh my gosh.
I'll
If that's
send you
real.
all the information. It's very real.
I'll put it up on
It's very
Instagram.
real.
Yeah, that's insane.
So that high school also, I mean, that school, it starts, I think it's kindergarten to 12th grade, if I'm not mistaken. But Jeffrey Epstein taught there for a year.
My gosh. I never.
Bill Barr, I forgot Bill Barr.
I mean,
So
Epstein
this
just keeps
school,
getting like
2 years ago, this
all
school
full
has a
circle.
history, and now they were in the news again for a couple of things, but mainly for that cartoon. And I have the cartoon that they were showing of the masturbation video. Now, I also looked into it to what other history they have. First of all, it's $45,000 a year tuition to go to the school, kindergarten and up. There is a waiting list to get into this school. Now,
Every
also,
parent that allows this to happen should be vetted. Like they need to be on a watch list. Like, why did you allow your child to be subjected to that kind of shit? Like, what kind of hoity-toity freako are you that you would let your kids be subjected to that? Like, you got to be a pretty fucking bad parent to let that slip through the cracks.
And it's not like this school hasn't had history. There was another headmaster there after Barr's father. His last name was Gardner in the 80s. And there was a New Jersey family that wanted to send their daughter to the school. She was like 13, I believe she was, and they didn't have the money for the tuition. So the headmaster made an agreement with them. I'll let her come here for free or less, whatever it was. But she has to live in my home with my family, his wife and his kids. And she has to do chores around the house and take care. Well, he groomed her. And guess what? Sexually abused her.
Yep.
The headmaster. And she was ashamed. She didn't come forward until the New York, actually the Me Too movement came out, and they dropped the statute of limitations for a certain amount of time. I believe it was 2 years that they were dropping it. She filed a case against him, against the school. She finally had the courage to come forward. That's all. You can fact check all that. Wow. So that school has a history of grooming, a history of abuse, yet it's still standing, and people are waiting on waiting lists and paying almost $50,000 a year for tuition.
You know, I say, if you're listening to this podcast right now, and this is something that's curious, hunting human traffickers, I want to be careful how I word this, because I don't want to spark any vigilantism. I'm not telling you to break the law. I'm not telling you to hurt anybody or any of those things. But what I'm saying is that there are children in the network of your own children and your children's network that play on the playground, and there are flags. And if so many parents allow their kids to blindly hang out and play and have friends, and they know nothing, very little, if even the last name of the children that they play with. If you take a minute and think to yourself, who are my children's friends? And which one of them could be possibly being groomed? If you allowed your mind to go down that hole for just a second, I bet you a lot of people listening to this can probably think, oh my God, I never thought about it, but she might have some red flags. And you can look into it a little bit deeper, and it might not be child sex trafficking, but you might find some abuse. You might some of this. Here's this stat I found here. This was a major survey from the British school from the UK. And this is coming from theguardian.com. A major new survey of British school children's attitudes to pornography has found significant numbers of young people between the ages of 14 and 18 are watching it frequently, with some becoming too addicted to sexually explicit content. Teachers say that they are being left to pick up the pieces from the damage that pornography causes in schools, with the proliferation of adult material leading to warnings of sexual harmful behavior among teenagers. This article goes on to say that a fifth of teenagers, 1 out of 5, are watching pornography frequently. And I'll tell you right now, if you're 14 years old and looking at porno frequently, you are addicted. Kids' minds are addicted to that shit, just like they're addicted to fucking video games. They can't get off the video games. I dare you to try to take your kid off a video game right now. If he's 13 or 14, take the video game console around and watch what happens. Bet you that guy loses his mind. That girl loses his mind. It's the same with porno. You take that porn away from those 14-year-olds right now, they will not know what to do with themselves. They're addicted.
Agreed. So Sonya, so what are some other things here? We're kind of getting to the last 10 minutes of the show. Some other things that you're working on that you want to make sure that everybody knows about what you're doing and what kind of stuff has come out in the recent week.
Well, not to get into, we'd need hours to talk about this topic, but the border children, 85,000 that are unaccounted for, which at this point we're estimating at least 130,000, if not more, are unaccounted for. I have recently, over the past month, come in contact and connected with the 5 whistleblowers from the border. They range from Aaron Stevenson, who was on Project Veritas, and he blew the whistle back in 2019 and 21. Tara Lee Rodas, who testified in front of Congress. She was running the Pomona Fairplex out of California for the migrants, thinking that she was going there to help children. Deborah White, Myra Moreno are both case managers that were also working at that location and connected with Tara. They also are whistleblowers. There's 5 of them in total on this team. And then Carlos Arellano. He was a transportation specialist that transported the children for ORR, Office of Refugee Reunification, I think it's called. That's what it stands for, ORR. And he left as well because of what was going on. There's a couple of things that you can actually look at. America's Future is an expose that they did with these telling that, where they talk about everything that they saw with proof. I've teamed up with them because they have a campaign called Defend the Children, where are the children, the 85,000 or more actually, where there's policy. This isn't something that's, going to be put in front of Congress and voted on. This is existing old policy that they are altering words, dropping things out in the Federal Registry and just passing it through. What we're trying to do is delay them or put a stop to it. Now, the way you do that is go into the Federal Registry and actually comment on this. And by law, they have to respond to every single comment. And it's going to take thousands and thousands of comments. We have the deadline is till December 4th. The website, I can give you the website. It's truthtrench.org/defend the children. And all of the instructions are in there. And it's 94. They've done the work for you. All you have to do is copy and paste. And all the instructions are there. And it's 94 different sections. And this is what we're starting. This is what we're doing. I mean, if you want to, I can probably get all the whistleblowers to explain everything. I have the Zoom meeting. I have all of the proof. I have everything that's going on. Basically, what we're trying to stop is government-sponsored taxpayer child trafficking at the border, because that is 100% what is going on. And if you guys actually saw everything that I have seen, I thought I knew everything that was going on. This will enrage you to your core with the facts of what they've shown me. We've had them on the podcast. We've discussed it. I mean, it's insane.
The second podcast I ever did for Failure to Stop podcast, back when it was owned by Drinking Bros Network, was called Government Sponsored Child Trafficking. And there was an expert on that we had as a guest breaking down the BlackRock owned facilities that were harboring children from Mexico until they're 18. So if they come across the border and they don't have any family and they can't find a family for them, they go to these massive compounds and they sleep on cots. And they are the security company that manages these is a Portuguese non-government agency, and DSS and Health and Human Services are not allowed to inspect the buildings, and you can't get into them. And there was a whistleblower, and we had the whistleblower and an expert on our second episode that was called government-sponsored children trafficking. Government-sponsored children trafficking. It's incredible that, and those were funded completely by the Obama administration, and it was led by Joe Biden's son.
Hello, hi, how you doing? We already knew that. I could have told you that. So listen, so Sonya, can people go right to your Instagram or right to your I know you're on Instagram.
All of my social media, yes. All of my social media.
It is in the bio of how they can do this? Okay.
Yes. Everything is in my beacons. All the organizations that I support and that I'm part of, there's so much information. I also have like a link to go to a link tree that goes to more link trees. All of my, like, yeah. Anything that you want to find is in there.
You can find Sonya at To A Patriot Mama. That's at the @ symbol 2, the number 2, A as in alpha.
That's on Instagram.
Patriot Mama.
Yep.
Yeah.
Get her while she's still there. That's what her current is, and
you'll always find her. She ain't going nowhere. I think that I've learned a lot through you, Sonya, on everything that is going on. I mean, you and I have known each other for quite some time, and we did we did a rally together here in Fort Lauderdale. You came out and supported the Gays Against Groomers and the Florida Fathers for Freedom, because kids were getting groomed in schools with these books in different situations. I would have said it. When I first heard about these books, I said it was bullshit. Long story short, I've seen the books. They're actually in schools. It's not bullshit. And the reason why I say if you would have told me I would think it's bullshit is because I don't think people want to understand the reality of that. That's what's actually going on, because it's almost better to be out of sight, out of mind, and that's the wrong position to have. So I think that it's important to have for different podcasts, and I know you have your own podcast, and I want everybody to go over and watch Sonya's podcast, Dark to Light, 1111. That's on Rumble. It's an amazing. They uncover a lot of amazing stuff. I've been on the show. Actually, Sonya and I have actually done some. We used to do Coffee Talk with Sonya Ant on Friday afternoons, which we should probably start up again after the holidays are over, or whatever. But I think that it's working, Sonya, and I think having different people on different shows, it's almost like, you can't get rid of me, bitch. You can't get rid of me because I'm on every fucking show and I'm on every, So if we keep on doing that, and people are so vocal about it right now, it's important. I think that one thing that COVID did for everybody is it gave people the opportunity to look over their kids' shoulders and see what they were doing. I personally have, unfortunately, stopped dealing with school boards myself because I am not a parent, and I was noticing that I was carrying more than parents. So I would deplore, if you're a parent, I would deplore you to look into what's going on in your kids' schools. It starts there. It starts in your kids' cell phones, your video game systems, and then obviously, follow people like Sonya, Sonya To A Patriot Mama. There's many organizations that she has. One that I love is Change Unchained, which is in my bio as well. Do you want to just tell everybody about that as well?
Change Unchained? Yeah. Change Unchained is one of the top organizations. They're within the Shepherds also. They are near and dear to my heart. I've actually visited their location. They are building a tiny home village for aftercare of survivors, 18 and older, of females, which is something that's extremely lacking in this country, and why the problem will keep continuing, because if we're not providing proper aftercare for these victims, guess what? They're winding back in the hands of their abusers. They need the proper aftercare, and it's not focused on enough. So what they're doing is absolutely amazing. They're raising money. They already have 2 tiny homes built and have had survivors stay. They have a waiting list. The 3rd home is actually being built. Apparently, their goal right now is it will be complete by the new year. They already poured the foundation for the 4th home. That's what they're going to max out for now, because they've only been operating for 2 years. So, but they also, like, he travels. It's a husband and wife. He travels on these operations, these big searches. So I'll be connecting with him again on Sunday for the week with the rest of the team. But that organization is absolutely amazing. They are amazing people. I love what they're doing, and we need more like them out there. And I have been seeing an uptick in that. I have been seeing a lot more, but there's just not enough. The same thing goes with there's not enough harsher sentencing. And what happens if we don't have enough harsher sentencing and they're being let back out on the street? We have a constant recycle of predators. If these kids or these victims of human trafficking aren't getting the proper aftercare, we have a constant recycle of them going back to their abusers. So it's just a constant, and nothing's ever going to get done if we don't tackle both ends of this. Never mind the middle part of the education, the awareness. I know that social media is a huge, huge tool that we use, but don't let it stop there. I couldn't sit behind social media anymore. I needed to find a way to get involved, and I did. This will be my 4th search and rescue. I'm now embedded within the team. I am in the middle of training with them as well, even though I'm going along for the ride and working the cases with them as if I am, I'm still learning though, but you learn as you go. But, I couldn't be more grateful because I'm out there helping. I mean,
you're putting your words into your feet, and you're getting on the ground. You're out there doing the damn thing. I fucking love you. I think that it's, I don't know, as the child of one of the strongest mothers I ever knew, who passed away of cancer, and I absolutely miss her every single day. I've always looked up to strong, willful women that always, kick ass and take names. Protecting, I think Eric has a fucking rock star of a wife, and she's like super mom, and Sonya, you're fucking super mom. You're ready to throw anybody that crosses your kids wrong into a wood chipper. I fucking adore you for that. So I really I really love that. I'm starting to see this even more. I'm seeing a lot of big blue check creators too, wearing
those red pill threads shirts, red pill threads shirts. You're wearing one now. I wore one yesterday. It said "Stop sexualizing our children." And I forgot I had it on. I was in a coffee shop. This little old lady goes, "I love your shirt." And I was like, I forgot I was wearing it. But yeah.
Oh, you should. Well, that's another thing I did. I opened a merch shop, and 100% of the proceeds actually goes to Change and Change.
Where is it?
It's also in my beacons. But it's all sarcastic. Okay. Listen, it's very, very sarcastic. It's very cutthroat. It is,
our listeners love that.
One of my shirts is, I now identify as a wood chipper. My pronouns are feet first.
Oh, I love that.
I'm very, very pedophile hunter. It's all pedophile hunter stuff. Proud member of the wood chipper crew.
Stilettos.
There's now breaking news. There's a new vaccine for pedophiles.
Yeah.
And it's a picture of bullets.
Yeah.
One shot and it's cured.
Dude, I will wear all of those. I will wear
my favorite animal to hunt, and it's pedophiles.
Dude,
we love it.
Great. Well, thank you so much, guys. Listen, please go follow 2A Patreon Mama. If you like this episode, you want more of it, you can follow us on social media webs. You got @ConverativeAnt. We are also _TSI on the Instagrams. And again, we have a couple of more child traffickers. If you want to learn more about child trafficking on the Patreon site, it's the Failure to Stop. We're under their network, but their Patreon site has 2 more 1-hour podcast with some of the other leading experts in human trafficking that have been doing it for over 29 years. Guys, thank you so much. This has been awesome. Anthony, you have the best friends of all time.
I mean, and she's beautiful.
I just love you to pieces. I gotta book my trip to Florida. We need a weekend. After all this is done, I need a vacation. I'm gonna need a vacation.
You know what, Eric and I like to really dig in and do this, in different aspects of our podcasting. Hey, Eric, maybe we can link up with some of our team one time and go out and do some
some on the ground research
investigation.
We actually have a documentary. Yeah, we have a documentary crew following us this week.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, let's get that one on the list. And if you guys have something else that you want us to cover, please send us a DM. DM us on nightshift_TSI and let us know your ideas and what you want us to cover next. Until next week, this has been Night Shift Top Secret Information.